What up, folks? I hope this is working. I hope this is good. Um, what's up? How y'all doing? I hope you're doing good. I'm hanging out. I'm at my mom's house right now, quarantining. Hope you're doing the same if you can, um, because it's just the right thing to do. And we've never been called to just like we call this nation to stay inside and eat food and watch things and catch up on books and clean their house for a few months. And then we'll go back, we'll see what's up. I don't know. I guess that wasn't too rousing, but I feel like there's a way they can make this a rousing speech. But it's the right thing to do. So I'm here, and I haven't done a podcast for a while. I was just really sick, and I look like shit right now. I do. For me, I'm like having a hard time being like, should I move this episode to an audio only? But I looked way worse the weeks before. I am getting over a pretty bad cold. Um, and anyways, things are going good. Besides like worrying about the world, um, besides that, things are good. That's a kind of a big deal, though. Um, yeah, I think like there's a story like Joseph Campbell like talks about this story about like how even like the alpha male gorillas who like will kick everyone's ass and everything, like the second it starts to rain and thunder, they're like a bitch. They're running around and that's because like God or the higher place we're a part of, Earth, um, has the real power, and I think just that there's bigger things. There's thunder, lightning in the clouds. Even if you're like the fucking champion human alpha, whatever, or ape, and yeah, I think that's sort of in a way we're all just realizing that everything is just so much more fragile than we could have imagined. Anyway, I'll move on from that, but that's sort of what I've been thinking about a little bit. So been reading, listening to an audio version of the Gospel of John. I've read since I was like a late teenager, in my late teens, been reading like spiritual books and different things like that about Taoism, Buddhism, Hinduism, and like even Gnostic Christianity, things like the Gospel of Thomas. And I'm always interested in spirituality. And then when I, started smoking weed and took mushrooms for the first time, those sort of things, like probably like 4 years after getting into that stuff, I never really meditated at the time or did yoga or anything like that. It was really a heady mental thing more than it was like a body and yeah. Anyway, so like when I started doing drugs and stuff and doing psychedelics, you kind of saw like, oh, like this is very true. Like a lot of the stuff they were talking about, like this makes even more sense in a way. Um, but I've been reading the Gospel of John. I've always been surrounded by these spiritual books and been doing it. But I grew up Christian, and like the one spiritual book that was like I grew up Mormon. The one book that was like the one they wanted us to read, I was like, no, like I don't want to fucking read the book you want me to read. And you just see like so much hypocrisy. You see so many like silly things because you're there at church seeing the people really, smelling the farts. You're getting like a lot about like, oh, this is kind of bullshit. And you're seeing to me like, oh, the sexism or just like, I mean, it is like it's separated. Men get to do things in the Mormon church that women don't get to do, and kind of not vice versa. Um, if you were a man, you couldn't go to the women meetings, I guess. I don't know how the fuck they do it. Anyways, it's stupid. But there was the book that was always around, and I was like, I don't want to read this book. And look, I'm not that far into it, and I'm only like a fourth of the way through the Gospel of John, and I might read some other stuff. I don't know, but it's cooler than I thought it was, for sure. It's like Duncan Trussell was like, I was listening to the Joe Rogan podcast, and then Duncan Trussell was like, the Gospel of John's the one you should read on acid. I was like, that sounds awesome. And it's pretty cool. I mean, it's a cool book, I don't think, I take this stuff kind of as metaphor, but on another level. Like, here's what I like about it, right? Here, I'll say the thing about the alien shit, and then I'm going to go into to the story so far. Like, I believe potentially, and why not, that there is like higher beings in the universe, or not necessarily even in the universe, in the same way that like, when I heard the argument, and people can think this is dumb or whatever, like I always knew about The Matrix, and like I was like, yeah, The Matrix, that's a cool movie. I like it. That's cool. I read some books about like the philosophies. I was like, this is cool. And I really like The Matrix or whatever. But I never like bought into the idea that we could like be living in a simulation. I didn't think that made any sense. And I think that word too, or whatever, maybe that's like a loaded word. But in World of Warcraft, if you're playing World of Warcraft, your character exists in a world of Warcraft. It exists in a world where you can't go through rocks, where you can't do things, as long as there's not like an error in the programming. And I had to make sure the camera was still on, and I saw it. So I looked. Lord in heaven. The redhead on Run, that show Run, and he's About Time, that redhead. He's like the only leading redhead ever. I guess there's a redhead on a show called Billions, I think is what it's called. But fuck, man. You know what I'm saying about being a redhead, though? What was I fucking talking about? I was talking about the Bible. I know I was talking about the Gospel of John. Anyways, whatever. I guess I gotta just move on. I don't want to waste your time. Aliens and shit. All right, so World of Warcraft, like, there's laws of physics in the fucking world of Warcraft, and if for some possible reason that you could put a being, a consciousness, or like a program of awareness into that thing somehow, then it would never be able to see the people that made World of Warcraft. They don't even exist inside of the programmers who made World of Warcraft don't even exist in World of Warcraft. They just made it. But they could be like, if they became conscious, like, be like, yo, is this a real world that I'm in of this Warcrafting? You know what I mean? Maybe you don't. For me, it was enough to be like, oh, you know what? I had things that made me agnostic, getting into like magic and things like that. It just sort of made me agnostic. I was like, this shit's really weird. So I'm just agnostic now because weird shit happened. shoot, I should have gotten water. Look at that. Jesus Christ. I can't believe I'm going to post this video, but I'm a human being, and sometimes you look like shit when you're sick, and sometimes you look like shit when you're not sick. Anyway, that argument convinced me to be even more agnostic. Agnostic to the point that I was like, what's the point? I mean, I'm still agnostic, but I'd like to just believe if I could, because it could just be true. Why would I not know? Like, here's my point, right? Let's say we're all a certain kind of being in this World of Warcraft that we're in. And then one time, one of these like higher programmer dudes or these beings was like, I'm actually going to go into the World of Warcraft to figure out what it's like and to like get axed and shit. And I'm going to know what it's like to have an axe in me. I made this program, and now I'm going to figure out what it's like to be inside this program. And so like this higher being went into a smaller being and then was like, yo, what up, everybody? I'm Jesus Christ. This is the shit, yo. Everything's good. I got you all. I'm here for you guys. And then like he died and went back and was like, yo, says all the other beings like, yo, that was crazy, man. That was nuts, dude. Women are pretty. Sand is harsh, and getting crucified sucks, you know. And to me, that was like, I just was thinking about that as I was reading it. I was like, I'm not gonna say I know that happened, or don't know that I know that it didn't happen, because I just only know what I've seen and done. It doesn't make sense to anything I've seen necessarily, but I don't know. It was kind of a thing I was just thinking about, and I thought it was kind of cool because there was a guy on the Joe Rogan podcast. Fuck, I can't believe I mentioned it twice. I don't even know his fucking name. Yoga Ray or something like that is, I think, his thing. He has a podcast called Wisdom of the Sages. I don't know how to say his name, so I'm not gonna try to fuck with that. But he was talking about how do I know, like, the Upanishads, and like how I know the Bhagavad Gita and all these old Hindu books. I think he's a Hindu. Sounds like he's a Hindu monk. And he's like, how do I know this shit isn't real? Maybe it is all real. Why not? It's all real. And he was kind of talking about how it's real. And I don't know. I guess I'm agnostic to that. But at the same time, I think I lean towards the idea it's just more fun being an atheist for like however long I was, like a while, 5 or so years. That was a fun in its own way. And I got really into Buddhism, and I got really into like learning about nature and evolution and things like that. And now it's like, I don't know, it just seems more fun to be like I prayed last night. I never pray. And it's just like, why not? And it felt good. And there's a lot of me that didn't want to. And it's like, don't, you're in bed already. You're going to get out and you're going to go pray. That's so dumb. And like all these different things. And then I prayed. Anyways, I hope I don't become like some nuts Christian, guys. I don't think so. I mean, there's stories, right? There's stories about, they're just stories to me in some ways, but maybe they're real, you know? I'm not going to like discredit that or think it's dumb if people believe in stuff I don't. But I also just think like the substance of it is just like what I want. Like for me, the Gospel of Thomas is like still the best because it's just like it's so Gnostic and spiritual, and the idea, like, I don't know if it's in one of the other Gospels, but in Gnostic Christianity, in the Gospel of Thomas, at least, there's a piece of it where he says like the kingdom of God is already here. It's not some place that happens later. It's already here. It's spread across the earth, but men fail to see it. You know, and I think that's really cool, and that's what I got into, and that's sort of like, you know, that's a cool idea for me. and it kind of aligns with a lot of the Buddhism that I was into and stuff. But so Jesus, right? Jesus, this is what I'm like gathering so far in the story. I'm like a fourth of the way through the Gospel of John. And they're like at this party and they run out of wine and people are like, oh, fuck. I don't know. Like, there's this king. The king is here. I don't have any wine. There's some sultan, other king, dude. We don't have any wine. And Jesus is like, hey, everybody, calm down. Just calm down. Just fucking give me some fucking water. I got you. I got this. And then, like, they like see that it's wine. And they're like, what the fuck? And the king's like, this wine's dope. And people are like, Jesus is fucking made that fucking wine, dude. And Jesus is like, I told you guys. I got you. It's all good. And then like they were at later on, right? And they're doing stuff. People are joining Jesus. People are like, yeah, yeah, yeah. And then like he's at this other party, right? Or they're like all eating or something like that. And there was just like barely this amount of bread. And people are like, oh, fuck, we barely have any bread. And Jesus is like, dudes, I got you. I got your fucking bread, okay? Check this out. Boom, boom, boom. Everyone's just eating tons of bread. He's like, I got you. And the best interpretation I've ever heard, for me, my favorite interpretation I've ever heard of like the story of the crucifix comes from Grant Morrison, the great comic book writer, the greatest comic book writer ever. And he says that God became a man to experience what it was like to be a human being, to have a really rough go too at the end, and who knows what happens in the middle or all that stuff, because he's older when he comes, you know. But he came down to live a life on earth, to experience love, pain, to really be with the people, and to die like the worst death possible. So that instead of where before, when we would pray to God, he wouldn't know what it felt like to be a human being. But now, if you pray to God and you have a trouble and you're like, oh man, I'm in a lot of pain, God's like, dude, I know, man. I have been there. And so like turning from sympathy to empathy, and that being like what that Jesus story is in a way. And I love that interpretation from Grant Morrison, that God just had to feel the pain so that he could really know what it was like. And he could truly be there for humanity, because he had experienced what it was been like. I kind of said that earlier with the world of person coming down and playing World of Warcraft. And that's kind of that thinking about it. You know, but he's like, I got you, dude. I've been there. And it's going to be okay, man. And I like that, dude. I like that. I think that's cool. Anyway, that's probably enough time. You probably didn't watch this thing because you could just put the audio on. It's probably what you should have done. And thank you for listening to my podcast. I guess I would sing some songs if, let's just see what happens. This is my broken guitar. I fixed it twice before, and I broke it 3 times now. This is my broken guitar. This is Delilah. This is my broken guitar. Classic. This is my broken guitar. People probably logged off because I was talking about Jesus, but if anybody's still here, then this is a treat for you. Jesus loves you. I'm kidding, but if he's really, probably does. You know, it's a cool story, and nonetheless, I've been liking reading it. Okay. Hey there, everybody in the World Wide Web. Welcome to my podcast. Music, movies, comedy, and eating ass. Are you welcome to my podcast? Welcome to my podcast. Welcome to my podcast. Welcome to my podcast. Welcome to my podcast. I wanna fart all day, fart all night, fart okay, I feel like maybe it's time to binge watch the Ninja Turtle show again. I'm just kidding, I'm watching Barry Lyndon. I fell asleep last night to Barry Lyndon. Man, that guy's really fucking crazy, man. It's a really good movie and I like it a lot. It's been some 15 fucking years since I gave it a saw, and now I know it's better than it was before. And I like pizza, gonna make a little gram, and I'm gonna tell you, Libby Lyman, living like your lamb, and looby dooby doo doo. Dooby dooby doo. Dooby dooby doo. Dooby 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 doo. Dooby 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 doo. Dooby 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 doo. Dooby doo 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 doo. Dooby dooby doo doo. Dooby dooby doo doo. Dooby dooby doo. Dooby dooby doo doo.